Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the L1 Link Show that you can share with your friends. It is January 11th, and we're doing social and... was it business? We already did business.
Links with friends.
Business and social, yes.
Okay.
Join
I
our
thought we already
friends
did
on
business. We did
Patreon and
different.
FlowPlay.
Also, it is links with friends. But if you don't have any friends, you can still watch.
Or just join the forum.
You don't have to click away.
Play Minecraft. Get friends there.
You can talk to us like we're your friends and possibly try to feed us mashed potatoes through your screen.
So specific.
Well, not a lot of foods will fit through the little holes. Well, my favorite news section of the Links to Share show, and it's pretty solid. Some weeks it's pretty big. It's the collapse section. So let's start out with, of course, Crypto Bros.
Reuters. New York sues Celsius Network founder Mashinsky, alleges crypto fraud. New York State? What?
Are you as annoyed as I am that every
Yeah.
picture of everybody has the AirPods?
It's because the AirPods are less terrible than the built-in microphones in the awful laptops that most people use.
I just don't like stuff that goes in my ears. Like AirPod or no, I just don't like that.
I'd rather see a big set of cans than that.
Yeah.
That annoys me. I don't know why. That's maybe because I hate Apple. Anyway, Mr. Mashinsky apparently was telling everybody. Also, FUD, F-U-D. I read that in a couple stories this week. Did you notice that?
Fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
That's a new catchphrase that they're using.
Oh.
Like anytime you question something, they're like, why don't you just back off with the FUD? You're being a real downer. We're just trying to sell some crypto here, bro.
I like the term doomer. That's one that I hear the
That's a
the
large part
younger
of our
folks
audience.
saying. Yeah.
That's kind of the opposite.
Being a doomer.
That's the opposite of FUD, right? The doomers are the ones that spread the FUD.
Yeah.
Anyway, this guy was saying specifically, hey, don't bring that FUD around here, as he was hiding the fact that he had lost a lot of money. And you would have been smart to get out of that. But he said no, and they're saying that's fraud. I agree. And once again, copy paste.
Silvergate forced to cover $8 billion worth of crypto-related withdrawals. The U.S. bank was forced to sell its $5.2 billion worth of assets for cash and booked a loss of $718 million on those sales.
Yikes. Silvergate's one of the few banks that will do business with the crypto bros and let them bank with them. And
Probably not now.
Yeah.
it cost them quite a bit of money.
I wonder if they've got the Winklevi on speed dial and they were just lighting their phone up the entire time.
I'm sure they were busy over the holiday, enjoying themselves.
Yeah.
And SBF, of course, that whole thing is playing out, and there's some real head scratchers still.
The CNBC headline is Sam Bankman-Fried pleads not guilty to federal fraud charges in New York. But there are a lot of stories about this, and every one of them doesn't really have a complete set of all of the interesting nuggets that are dropped in the response and the filing and blah, blah, blah. According to this, and according to his lawyers, Sam Bankman-Fried opened up whatever assets he had to the authorities in the Bahamas, and that's why all this mysterious stuff is going on with the FTX crypto wallets. And the Bahamas are saying, this is our jurisdiction, we don't have to respond to U.S. chapter whatever, bankruptcy proceedings, which is weird. And the feds are also saying he cooperated, which is why he got the relatively low bail amount of, what, $250 million?
Well, yeah, he should never have gotten any sort of bond at all.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is, how did he make a $250 million bond or whatever it was? It was a huge number. His parents put up their house, obviously. Their house is not worth $250 million. So he had some angels that came in and paid his bond. Who were they? Well, he successfully filed and had that suppressed. We're not allowed to know. There are two individuals or two entities that have bailed out SBF. I think it's in our interest to know that.
Yeah.
But we don't get to know that, unfortunately. And if he has benefactors who will give him $250 million, do you think maybe he's a bit of a flight risk?
I think also that we're going to see this in a Netflix special that's even more interesting than the one about Crazy Eyes Holmes.
I heard good things about that. I can't remember the name of the actress who played her, but I heard it was good. I didn't watch it.
Who would you cast as SBF? Probably be, he may be too old now, but I think Frodo, if they fattened him up, be a good one, right?
Can we do CGI Chris Farley?
That's a little too much.
Yeah.
I think Chris Farley's also much taller. Oh man, Seeking Alpha has a weird
Pretty sure he
Weird.
is going to be living in a van down by the river before it's over, though.
If he's lucky, it'll be like a really nice electric van.
Yeah, he'll be living #van life and
One of those Mercedes vans that's like
the Sprinter.
yeah.
Those are the ones that are really tall.
Well, you know who else might be living in some vans and not nearly as opulent a set of vans, and that is Amazon warehouse workers.
Amazon to lay off over 18,000 employees because no one's buying anything because of the aforementioned collapse.
Actually, I think so. We already knew about the 10,000. This is in addition to that.
Yeah.
But I think these 8,000 are not necessarily coming out of the warehouse. I think this is going higher up the chain. They're cutting further and further up.
Amazon would also like to speak to you about leasing opportunities on their campuses.
This is a update. I don't know if I saw that when I went through. What was the update? Was it just
We can't.
you can't see it because
We
of
can't
the?
scroll it.
I think they got some details in this wrong and then they fixed it.
I think the number's still valid, though, right?
Yeah, I
It's
think the
still
number's the
18%.
same.
And not just Amazon.
Salesforce to cut staff by 10% in tech layoffs. Salesforce #1. Oh, no, wait.
The CEO was like, yeah, we might have hired too many people during the crisis. Oops.
If you deployed Dynamics instead of Salesforce, I guess, yay.
And add one more to the list. In this case, they're going after the R&D department. What were they trying to R&D here?
Vimeo enters 2023 with a round of layoffs impacting 11% of employees. Yeah, Vimeo, they should have pivoted a while ago. You know, if they'd had a competent social YouTube competitor, they could have pivoted that to Twitter type functionality and probably taken over the universe.
I kind of like Vimeo, but like, yeah, it doesn't feel very social. It feels like you put your stuff up here as a portfolio piece and then you just click to it and then watch it and then go away.
It feels like they're so pinching pennies at this point that they've become extremely pound foolish and they're going to freeze and not innovate, which therefore means death in this
Well,
industry.
yeah, and they're getting rid of the R&D department,
Yeah.
right? So
Well, they weren't delivering anything, were they?
It's like Johnson, we do video and that's the only thing we're gonna do. It's like when Xerox abandoned Park. Like, we're in a position to do amazing things with video and algorithms and compression. And no, we just do video.
And the IMF has realized the obvious.
A third of the world economy to hit recession in 2023, the IMF head warns.
that seems low to me.
I think most of us were already there.
Yeah.
We're just pretending we're not. And moving on to hardware, we have some new offerings from all the big names this week.
Intel announces its non-K 13th generation core processors for desktop, new 65 and 35 watt processors. It's Consumer Electronics Week last week, Consumer Electronics Show. This was one of the things that debuted. Although at the time we're filming this, Intel's been oddly silent on the upcoming 13900KS, which we know is coming. We're pretty sure is coming.
And as we enter into the age of utilities costing a lot and, not being very reliable,
I haven't checked my electric bill this month, but I know it's going to be bad.
It's bad.
Yeah.
but this month last month
It'll
will
be,
be
yeah,
bad.
December because of the snow.
This month will be fantastic
That's been
because
warm,
it's
yeah.
been beautiful. But you want to save as many of those watts as you can, and all the big companies are realizing that.
Nvidia unveils GeForce RTX 40 series GPUs for laptops. They said, you can get a 4090 in a laptop. It's not the same 4090 as desktop. And they don't even this is the same company that said we're going to unlaunch the 4080 because it's different than the other 4080 and it's confusing. And then they roll out the 4090 in a laptop. Why did they do that? That doesn't make any sense because it's different. It's way different. It should have been 4090M.
And you think to yourself, what do they do with all those 4080s that they had in the warehouse that people shamed them into not selling? How are they going to unload those?
Nvidia RTX 4070 Ti leak reveals specs from unlaunched RTX 4080. Well, not a leak. They've actually launched now. The videos are up in the reviews, and yes, they were as bad as everybody expected. The subsystems are gimped to the point that the memory sort of starves the core, and the performance, it performs well, and the MSRP is $799 or $899, but the street price is quite a bit higher, and the performance isn't there, and everybody's just generally kind of PO'd.
And Apple, with their big coup of the M1 and M2, shocked everybody. Apple is making hardware and it's good? How can this be? And everybody else is trying to catch up.
AMD claims a new laptop chip is 30% faster than the M1 Pro. This is one of their CES announcements, and they promise up to 30 hours of battery life. So it's going to be interesting to see if this comes in vogue. Lenovo and other companies were on stage with, AMD, and they talked about the new models of laptop that are coming. There's like 30 different models from a bunch of different vendors. AMD actually had a lot of announcements, their 3D gaming processors with a stacked cache and their non-X CPUs and blah, blah, blah. And it's some really interesting stuff coming from a lot of folks at CES, including displays.
And it's very important, even when the economy is down and people don't have extra money, when it comes around CES time, you have to come up with a gimmick that can't possibly succeed. And I think we have a really, really good contender this year from Asus.
Ars Technica reports that Asus has brought us glasses-free 3D to OLED laptops. How? By doing eye tracking while you're watching the laptop.
At all times.
Ugh.
Do you think any of that telemetry might go back to Asus or Microsoft?
Or to advertising companies who will now be tracking your every movement.
So there's a layer of like a special filter built on top of it. And then as you look at different places, it actually changes the image to make it 3D to wherever you're looking. That seems like a lot of extra horsepower you're going to have to throw at that as well.
I wonder if it, could you wear sunglasses? Would it break it? That'd be interesting.
If you can't see through them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And we talk about M1, M2, those are ARM chips. And the way of the future seems to be finding the new chip, manufacturing it yourself, and reaping the benefits. Everybody wants to repeat Apple's cycle. Google wants to go in a different direction.
Google wants RISC-V to be a tier 1, quote-unquote, Android architecture. So basically, Google gave a keynote, and they said, we think RISC-V is the future. We're going to help develop it. We're going to drive adoption of things like out-of-order technology and memory prefetch and all the cool stuff that RISC-V doesn't really yet have in their ecosystem, because they see that in pretty short order, that's going to be important for the Android ecosystem, because Google wants to run Android and other Google operating systems on everything, from thermostats to phones to whatever. So that's why this is so important to them.
But one place where they might be facing a new competitor is in the TV realm, where now this is not a new competitor in the TV realm necessarily, but so far they have not made their own TV hardware.
Roku has entered the chat. The streaming device company is finally launching its own line of TVs, which are really just rebranded TVs from somebody else.
I could have sworn they'd already done this because my mom has a TV in her basement that I thought was a Roku TV.
Well, it's a Roku operating system TV,
Okay.
but they did not manufacture it.
Ah.
So they're skipping that step and selling it to you directly.
So that TV will be obsolete in 1 or 2 years, when you could normally get, it's a display device. You should be able to get 10 years out of a display device. And yeah, sure, newer display devices might be faster and have better color fidelity, but you should be able to use something that displays stuff for 10 years.
Oh, it used to be a lot longer. I knew someone well into the early 2000s who had one of those big TVs from the 70s that just sat on the floor. It was like a piece of furniture.
Yeah.
Now that Apple basically has a gun to their head when it comes to USB-C, I think they are probably hoping to move through the USB-C era as quickly as possible and get back to the proprietary stuff. And this, I think, is getting out ahead of that.
Wireless Power Consumption Consortium works with Apple on next generation of the Qi 2 charging station based on MagSafe. What is it? It's the Qi charging coil, but it'll find the exact right spot using magnets.
TLDR, we just don't want to use USB-C because we want to keep selling chargers for an obscene amount of money.
I mean, it's a nice technology, I suppose. Maybe not a lot of people looking to upgrade right now. And we covered this before, but just this is your last warning.
MacBook owners have 2 months to claim up to $395 for butterfly keyboard malfunctions. So if you experience the butterfly awfulness and you paid out of pocket to fix it, you can claw back almost $400 if you had the worst experience imaginable.
I think you had to have multiple keyboards to get the 400.
Otherwise, you only get $100. But hey, $100 is $100.
$100, that's like
3 rolls of toilet paper.
That's like one bag of produce. And because of that rampant inflation that's driving up the cost of our food, the cost of everything is going up.
Apple's battery replacement prices are going up by $20 to $50. They really just want you to buy a new iPhone or Mac or whatever.
It's $20 across the board for all phones. You get into the $50 range when you go into the desktops and stuff like that. I guess it would have to be a notebook, wouldn't it? Desktop wouldn't have battery. And Apple, as we've learned, is looking to diversify their supply chain. And this is really bad news for all those Chinese manufacturers.
Apple supplier Luxshare rises after reportedly winning contract to produce luxury iPhones. I don't know if this is going to affect them. I thought this was like iPhones that are crusted with diamonds and stuff.
It's the Max.
Oh, okay.
The iPhone Max.
iPhone's crusted with diamonds.
Like, because doesn't like Abu Dhabi have this, artisanal jeweler that will give you the...
Probably like Swarovski crystal or whatever.
But I don't think Apple sells them like that.
Yeah.
Like you buy this and then you pimp it.
Oh. Yay.
And once again, maybe not the best timing.
No.
I think the market is probably not as robust as it once was.
Also, after the holiday season, Sony says the PlayStation 5 shortage is over. Now that Christmas is over.
It could have been demand destruction and not supply renewal that killed that got to PS5.
So much demand destruction. So much.
And then I think we talked about this a while back. California is getting a Nintendo theme park. Now, Japan already has one, so a lot of things I talk about in here are assumptions based on that. But it's a wild world of augmented reality.
What you'll find inside Nintendo's new California theme park.
So, Mario Kart will be like an AR experience where you put on the gear and you play Mario Kart.
Do they shock you if you get hit by the blue shell?
They should. They should just hit you with a club.
Multiple times.
That might damage the hardware though.
Yeah.
But even more disgusting and horrible capitalism than that is the power band, where you buy an armband, and that armband, aside from tracking your location across the park and measuring everything that you do, lets you participate in little pop-up things that happen. And those could also be involved with the augmented reality. So they're basically going to just strap you up with gear and turn you loose on a little piece of California while they extract money from you.
I'm just imagining all the horrible things that exist in Mario, like the guy on the cloud who throws shells at you.
Oh, that would be
like that's a random pop-up event and you have to run around.
There's a guy on top of buildings with a bag full of coconuts.
Yeah, and he's just... He knocks out a 5-year-old. Oops.
So that's the chance you take.
Yeah. You sign a waiver when you come in.
You get a refund on your power band if that happens to you. It was $28 for the power band in Japan. I don't know what it'll be here. And I don't think you get to keep it. That's just for the day.
Is that that's not included with your ticket to get in?
No. That's extra. And they pointed out how if you have the power band and the AR, there might be blocks in the AR world. And if you have the power band, you can hit them. And then you'll get little fun interactions.
Can you redeem that at the gift shop on your way out?
I don't think so. I don't think you get anything. You just
endorphins.
Experience it. Yeah.
I want some mushrooms, damn it.
The ones in Mario are venomous or poisonous.
What if can those grow in California?
Amanita, yeah.
What if those were grown in the park and people were like, "Oh my God, look what they did!"
they eat one and it's, oops, that's a death angel.
Oopsie.
And you hear that. Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg personally and the business has been very anti-China lately, which was a big change for him. He normally had not been. And they point out in here, it may be because they were trying to find anything to agree with Donald Trump on for some reason. And they were like, yeah, anti-China could work. But he didn't look into the back of the box of his headsets before he made that stance.
Made in China labels become a problem for Meta and its anti-China stance. I thought it was just a distraction. It's they can't do business in China really because of the regulators and having to have a local subsidiary and blah, blah, blah. They were already kicked out basically. And so I thought this was a way to sort of distract from, it's like, hey, we can all agree there is manipulation and stuff going on. We'll ban them from the platform and we'll all feel good about banning anything that might manipulate the platform. But it really, there was no money to be made there anyway, so that it's not as if they were going to lose money.
But he still has to do business with them, and they're not happy about
Yeah.
his attacks. They're sensitive about that type of thing.
Makes sense.
And we got the big snowpocalypse. The northern parts got it way worse than we did. There was
It was just really cold here.
the Buffalo disaster. But New York City learned a very important lesson about the future of commercial vehicles in their fleet.
It's snow go for New York City's electric garbage trucks that cannot handle winter weather. So this is the batteries and the temperatures. They don't necessarily go together. The garbage trucks aren't designed to preheat the batteries.
That's fair. I mean, maybe you still keep a couple gas ones around for if things get really dicey.
They point out that they use the garbage trucks for snow removal. They double duty them, which is weird. And they point out they need a 12-hour shift out of that truck to really remove snow. An electric battery, the best they've ever gotten, 4 hours.
Yeah.
And then the recharge cycle is too long to just, like keep them moving.
Yeah, they'd have double the fleet.
And the fast charging situation, we also learned that doesn't work all that great when it's super, super cold, but maybe another company will do better at that.
Mercedes-Benz will build a $1 billion EV fast charging network in the U.S. Well, $1 billion doesn't go as fast as far as it used to. So it's going to be 2,500 chargers of 400 sites.
They said there could be between 4 and 30 plugs per site. That's a big spread.
Yeah.
But I guess it depends on where it is too. Like if you're in the middle of the desert in the Southwest, they probably would put like 4 plugs and not 30.
Buc-ee's needs to get in on this. It's like, hey, Mercedes, wherever you're going to put your charging station, we're going to put a Buc-ee's.
Or Buc-ee should do indoor electric chargers,
That'd be
but
nice.
charge for them. You can get an indoor electric charging experience, but it's a $11 burrito minimum. Everybody in the car has to get an $11 burrito.
How much was the banana pudding you got and brought in a while back?
I think the small one was like $4 and the big one was like $7. Yeah, Buc-ee's like an airport when it comes to
Yeah.
prices.
I still haven't been past it, but I haven't been in.
I'm always shocked because I drive by it a lot based on where I live, and I'm just any time of the day.
It's always packed.
Yeah, they got a hell of a business model.
Yeah. I don't understand people who are like, oh, it's a weekend. I gotta go to Buc-ee's. And I'm like, why? What do you need from there?
Because that's where the scene is at.
I guess.
That's where all the cool kids are.
We have such an amazing art scene around here. Why don't you go to any of that or the
No,
farmer's
man.
market
I
or
want to go stare at a wall of beef jerky. Well, I know some of you out there in our audience are holding out. You refuse to upgrade, and Google is trying to force your hand.
Google Chrome will end support for several Windows versions in days. Yeah.
the sub? It'll work. Not great, but it'll work.
No, it doesn't really work because I've tried to run Chrome on really ancient Windows, and it'll tell you, it just straight up tells you, it's like, this version of Windows is not supported, and it just mostly doesn't work.
And if you were planning on enjoying some of your favorite sports games in the new year,
Cloud saves.
maybe some bad news.
EA says that it cannot recover 60% of players' corrupted Madden franchise save files. So this was just, they save stuff in the cloud and they messed something up and there's no backups and it's just gone forever.
I assume that these games are very much like the modern microtransactions everywhere, skins, things, all those sort of unlock. So I assume you lose all that.
Now, I think you still get to keep all that. This particular aspect of it was you play in a persistent online league with everybody else. Mm-hmm. And you get like ranked against them and you can play against those people. And, it's like a career mode for everybody.
Okay.
So you will lose all of that. You still play the game, but you can't get on that online thing. You have to start from scratch, basically.
Is anyone affected? But I don't know if our audience is super into that franchise, but
I've not played a Madden game in a really, really long time. They used to be really cutting edge in terms of technology, but I think now they just kind of copy and paste it every year.
yeah,
And a lot of people are.
most
not
sports
into it.
games are that way, I think.
Microsoft still trying to claw that Activision merger any way that they can. And at this point, they are just telling the most outlandish lies that they can.
Microsoft claims it has no idea when Call of Duty came out.
If you're the judge, wouldn't you, or wouldn't you just pull out your phone and be like, well, let's look it up?
That's
Because
what
yeah,
The Verge immediately Googled it. Google knows. Google has that information. But Microsoft, they're trying to sell. It's like, listen, Call of Duty, we're not even sure. We didn't create that. That's just coming along for the ride. That's not that big a deal. It's not
that's
like
not that big of a deal, but you could be losing money on it if you don't know anything about it.
it's not $1 billion industry on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're probably screwed there. I don't think they're getting it. And we have seen more and more of this in the gaming industry, which traditionally has been a little, I guess, anti-worker. They really just do what they want to you. They work you all hours, and they don't pay you a ton of money, especially in the testing department.
Fallout and Doom QA testers just formed the biggest union in the U.S. games history.
Woo. It's probably a net positive, hopefully.
We'll see.
Unless, those companies are just like, what do we need QA for? And then the next releases in those franchises are going to be awful.
Also, game testing has to probably be one of the easiest replacements, right?
Maybe.
What's the training cycle for that?
Yeah.
You got to teach them how to report the bugs. But other than that, just play the games. And here's a dark new reality. I don't think this is ever going to go anyplace good. This is only going to cause problems, but it seems to be the future, thanks to Mr. Elon Musk.
Nvidia's GeForce Now game streaming is coming to cars. Hyundai and Pulsar are some of the early adopters.
Heaven forbid, you just sit in silence and inside of your own thoughts for even a moment.
Although if I were in a SUV with children in the back, anything I could do to shut them up, I would pay any price, because that's a special kind of hell. And emulators, as you know, we probably shouldn't even be saying that word, right?
Probably not.
That's probably on the list, because a lot of entities, a lot of copyright-loving entities hate that word so much.
PS2 emulator for Android, Aether SX2, ceases development due to quote-unquote death threats. Sort of the worst people. It's like this is just a single developer with a hobby project and something's not right and somebody sends him this angry vitriolic. I didn't sign up for this. I don't want it. I know exactly what they're talking about.
That's so, strange to me.
It really is. I
understand being passionate about something, but I've never been like, yeah, I should send someone a death threat.
Do you ever read the YouTube comments?
Yeah. I mean,
I read them, but maybe I'm just maybe I don't read them closely. No, I don't see that many.
There's not that many, but there's a class of person who they feel like they're entitled to make whatever demand they want of you.
That's odd.
Tell you how much you suck.
There's also a class of person that will disagree with you and send you those kinds of threats seriously because they're so angry that you've shattered their worldview. You've really reached somebody, but you've reached them with a message that, their entire worldview is wrong, and then they get mad at you about that.
Yeah, it's because we've entered into this world where almost everything is taking on a religious fervor level of, I am part of this group, and I will destroy anybody who's not.
It's the clickbait problem as well.
The FUD.
Everything's so inflammatory.
The anti-FUD. And this is a lesson in, we talk about mergers, right? Should we let Microsoft have Activision? Could anything bad happen if we let that happen?
Salesforce guts Tableau after spending $15.7 billion in the 2019 deal. We covered this in another way in the earlier collapse section. Mostly the Tableau team was affected. Tableau is like a helper for making visualizations and reports from tabular data. But interactively and online. So it's like Microsoft Excel, but not really, just the graphing part. But also it'll help you relate it to other data that's maybe organized in a different way. So if you need reports from analytics or whatever, you do that.
This is one of those mergers where I'm sure they talked to some regulator somewhere and they're like, no, we're definitely going to do good things with Tableau. We have all these great plans. The plan is fire everybody because we regret that purchase.
Excellent.
And if you were during the, what do we call it? The bomb cyclone? The deep freeze?
The deep freeze. It was a winter storm. I can't remember what they called it.
If you were part of that, let's say you were sitting at a Tesla charging station watching your battery go down, you may have had a moment where you were like, I'm in danger. And what am I going to do if I start to freeze to death? Well, luckily, Apple has already hooked you up, and now the Android people can enjoy it too.
Qualcomm is going toe-to-toe with Apple's satellite messaging feature. The company said in mid-2023 they should have Android devices that are capable of the same.
It's exciting if you're a hiker. There was a lot of articles about this in hiking communities this week.
Now, they are looking to take it a little bit further. They might actually offer premium tier where you can satellite message without it being an emergency.
That's some of the the inReach beacons and stuff that you can get that hikers have. Some of them have texting capabilities, so you can be like, "Oh, I made it to camp," or "I'm fine," whatever. Or "I'm gonna be a few minutes late," or not a few minutes, but like a few hours late. Like, don't call search and rescue.
Does that defeat the whole purpose of getting away from it all?
I mean, yeah, a little bit, but at the same time, if you're in a really remote area, I can see why you might want that.
Well, the Apple versus Google debate continues to be hot, and text messages are one of the big sticking points there. Google wants RCS. Apple says, nah, bro, iMessage is already, everybody cool already uses iMessage. We don't want your garbage in here. And of course, they do the different colors. Google is trying the shame tactic.
Massive Google billboard ad tells Apple to fix quote-unquote pixelated photos and videos and texts between iPhones and Androids. This is more of the green versus blue. Apple's like, ah.
Do they have a picture of? Oh, yeah, here it is. It's a digital billboard.
They want you to use the really crummy, like 320 by 240 multimedia messaging standard if you're not in iMessage.
And they're also, they're talking about how, like at my house, my service is terrible, but I can use the Wi-Fi calling.
Yeah.
But SMS doesn't work over Wi-Fi. So text messaging is real dicey at my location.
Yeah.
And this, I don't know, this seems like a really, really beautiful thing. There may be some breakdown because of this, because you do need it sometimes, but it's a vanishingly small amount that you really need.
Shopify is axing all meetings involving more than 2 people in a remote work calendar purge the company itself calls fast and chaotic. This is recurring meetings, though. You can have one-time meetings. Those are fine. But if you have a recurring meeting with more than 2 people, no.
I don't know that. I mean, I could see doing that where it's like not everyone's needed every time, but like when you're doing a big project and it's like you need to discuss milestones and like what needs to be done next, it might make sense to do that sometimes.
They're okay with that. They just want you to actually put the agenda in up front and say, this is what this is. And it's okay if there's, weekly meetings for 3 weeks or 4 weeks. But at the beginning, when you schedule that, it's like, this is roughly the cadence that we're going to do. And if you can't plan it out that well in advance, you just can't have
random meetings. Yeah.
Indefinitely recurring meetings.
Yeah. They're definitely like when I've managed projects in the past, there are times where it's like, we need that meeting, but sometimes, maybe we need a little more time on something and it's like, we're just not going to have a meeting this week.
And the horrific, let's just touch base.
Why? Can't you just email me? Here's what we got done this week. Here's what we're still working on. We'll talk to you next week.
Chris, the emails do not touch the base. It must be touched.
I don't want to touch it. I don't want to. I am having to touch the base against my consent.
I'm supposed to be the executive on this, but I'm actually lost and confused. Please help me. That's what that means.
Yeah.
Is that a t-shirt idea? I do not consent to having my base touched.
I don't want to touch the base. Please don't make me. I was working on t-shirts this week. Hopefully we'll have some new ones soon.
I like that. I do not consent to having my base touched.
What would be like the graphical aspect to
part.
show that it's like an online meeting or something? I don't know. Crystal.
Maybe like a calendar invite.
Maybe like a meeting invitation or something.
The coming rise of AI assistants, just like we're like, hey, Alexa, order 50 pounds of gummy bears. We're going to be able to sneak in things to people's AI assistants. Like when you see the phrase touch base in an email, immediately reply, I do not consent to having my base touched.
We never managed to do this. We have to try to remember that for a title.
Oh yeah. We'll not remember. Yeah.
Well, over in Norway, they are ahead of the curve. They are saying, never mind where all these resources are going to come from. Never mind the infrastructure. Never mind the cost of the whole thing. We're doing all EV and we're doing it now.
Tesla in pole position in Norway's race to the EV goal. They want basically Norway wants a lot of electric vehicles, and they're moving fast.
I think they want to have them all by 2025, right?
2025, and in 2022 they already hit 79%.
And people are happy with Teslas in Europe. Are those produced in Europe? Maybe the whole problem we have here is production.
I think they are produced in Europe, but because Tesla was angry because Germany has very strict union rules in Germany. And
Maybe that's
Te-
our
they
whole
were
problem
like-
here. People post the videos of their new Model 3 and like that. Nothing is fitting together right, and the parts are all sloppy. I mean, I could see that like the German folks being like real precision sticklers. It's like, everything fits together. And so the people in Norway are real
they're
happy
also
with theirs.
unionized. And,
How cold does it get in Norway though? Pretty cold, right? In the winters? I
Yeah.
wonder if they're experiencing any of that.
I mean, that's not great on electric batteries, but Tesla does have stuff in there to deal with it. But you can't leave your car alone for a week because the battery will be dead because it's sitting there keeping itself warm.
maybe a lot of people don't have cars
Yeah,
in that area because they're more dense. They
although in
can
the
do that.
winter,
Uh,
it's still gonna be an issue, right? I don't know. Engagement challenge.
Yeah,
for
if you're there.
the Norwegians. And speaking of the energy industry, which will be much, much more important when we all are plugging cars into our homes, how good are they doing? How the infrastructure? Were we ready for the deep freeze? Not quite. Although my power did stay on, I was very impressed.
I also was impressed that ours stayed on.
It's
the power quality went way down, but it did stay on.
it's maybe telling that I'm now impressed by the minimum.
Yeah.
Like the bare minimum of just keeping it on. But some of that might be fakery.
Power companies caught paying local news outlets for glowing coverage. Also trash companies, as it turns out. But yeah.
What they point out here is basically that local news is so destroyed and pointless that they'll take money from literally anybody. Like,
That's true.
we're dying and we'll take whatever you've got. I'm thinking that pretty soon they're going to be doing local interest stories on male enhancement pills.
I love our little local news sites, especially for like very small areas. Those are fascinating to me.
But they're just running Reuters stories most of the
Yeah.
time. Like 99% of it is
Oh,
Reuters stories.
not the little ones. They'll be like really like niche interest, like cow escaped.
Well, that's all that's they got left.
Yeah.
They're not making any money. We know a dude who bought one of those just for political,
Right.
like, he just wanted to run local politics and influence them with
With that local paper.
took a big loss on it. And WhatsApp has looked at the world, and what's happening is anytime there's any kind of unrest anywhere, or, like, for example, Saudi Arabia and Wikipedia, people, they turn off the internet, they shut down social media. That's one of the first steps that a despotic government will do. How can Facebook still get users in that environment?
WhatsApp launches official proxy support for users globally. Yay!
Then they claim what's going to happen here, it's kind of like Tor. You get volunteers who operate the exits, and you go through that. Now, they claim it's fully end-to-end. You don't have to worry about
We'll see.
putting your
Yeah.
stuff through a rando exit. I don't know.
I know some folks that can audit that. It's going to be interesting.
How hard would it be for Saudi Arabia to open up an exit?
Well, it's going to be more like the Wikipedia story where all of a sudden, somebody that's overqualified shows up and they're like, "Yeah, I can totally work for $25,000 a year on your advanced protocol end-to-end encryption." It's like, "Oh, okay."
That sounds great.
Yeah.
And here's something we've seen a lot of. We have a new study. I don't know. Remember all the video game studies? They never came out to be anything. That was all just fake. But I do find that this, like, in my mind, I think this makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social media use is linked to brain changes in teens, research finds. Yeah, I mean, they literally did say the same thing about video games, but it turns out, like, I remember one of those studies was Zelda, and so it was like The Legend of Zelda, and the part of your brain, they were doing like fMRIs, and they found it was the part of your brain that develops the same way that New York cab drivers, the part of their brain develops for pathfinding. Like, you remember where everything is.
Well, the particular thing that they said changed in this case was that they would become hypersensitive to like the peers and their
Criticism.
opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. Made them less robust against that kind of thing.
Self-esteem way down.
Yeah. Probably not good for the kids. It's funny, they factored them into different categories, and addiction category was checking more than 14 times a day What do you think you're at? Like 140 more?
Probably more.
Terminally online.
You're 10 times
Probably.
the addiction limit.
Yeah.
And finally, a somewhat hilarious and yet horrific story. This is why I say most people are not equipped to have children.
Talk about betrayal.
Yeah.
Mother of the year, U.S. teen discovers cyberbully was her own mother.
I didn't want to believe this, but not only was she harassing her on social media, she was also texting her at like all hours.
Right. So
This is a thing that happens. I've seen this.
she
Really?
was, I don't, they didn't really go into like what she was saying to her other than she used a lot of teenage slang to try to hide the fact that she was her mom.
Yeah.
But this woman was a basketball coach at the school. Do you think it was related to her basketball performance or?
I don't know.
Now the FBI got involved and they did arrest her and they charged her, but the prosecutor is saying like, well, I don't know if we have enough evidence. I don't know how we prosecute this.
This was a parenting choice that she made, not child abuse. And it's like,
Oh, that's
no.
pretty abusive.
Yeah.
You know, if you were screaming that stuff at your kid all day, they would probably remove your child.
But if it were parenting, why would you hide your identity?
Right.
I think that's the big thing that's going to get her. She used a VPN to try and hide her identity. Also, they talk about how she broke down during interrogation. I really hope somebody gets that interrogation.
Oh,
video
do you wanna
up
watch
on-
it?
Oh, I'm dying to watch that. Yeah.
What a messed up. I hope that teen maybe finds like a good foster family or some adult she can trust.
That's another question. Do you take that kid out of that home?
Potentially.
I
mean, the foster system is a
Yeah.
minefield.
It would be interesting to see, like, if we had a properly working social system, somebody could say to the mother is like, that was wrong, you shouldn't have done that. But then also the teen has a way of contacting social services to be like, she's not listening.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think we
Well,
have that.
how do you fix the mom and just not slap her on the wrist?
How about, because they do this all the time in like hacking and stuff like that. They'll do this to you if you do like the white hat hacking. No computers, no phones.
Yeah. Mom's not allowed to use the computer anymore.
And
Interesting.
daughter can dime her out anytime she wants.
That's how it goes.
I have so many questions about that case, but like, what is the
Yeah.
mom doing all day? Does she work? Like,
Well,
why
she
would
was
you
a
harass?
basketball coach. I don't know if that
Is
was
that a
volunteer.
job or is that a volunteer?
It
Yeah.
doesn't say.
What a mess.
Weird. The ghost just opened the door.
It was the wind.
All right. Well, we did a little bit better than that. We got 42 minutes.
Oh, perfect. All right, chat. We'll see you guys on Friday.
You're welcome. Join Patreon Floatplay. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.